Welcome to the home of the DIY movement, where we build stuff and paint things.
All right, y'all, welcome back. It's Way Back Wednesday. Where we last left off, we painted the 62 and we got it buffed out, and now we're ready for the hydraulics and assembly of the car. So I found this picture right here after I had uploaded the frame, assembly of the rolling frame, or mocking up of the frame, I should say. Thought that was a pretty cool picture. This car would stand 3, pretty easy, me standing on the corner of it like that. So now the car is buffed out, and it's already on the frame, on the reinforced wrap frame, and now we're getting ready to install the hydraulics, which was a pretty basic setup. It wasn't overcomplicated, and it was 10 batteries across the back. Here's a picture I had snapped of a dog we used to have, Max. Max was probably the best dog we ever had. Man, back then I had like fake leather couches in the shop, which now I don't even have room for. But man, I just had it was kind of like halfway like a hangout spot, and the other half was like a shop to work in. But Max was real interested in what we were doing, as usual, and so I was measuring, how long or how many batteries can fit across the back like that, and he had to jump up and take a peek. But looking at this picture right here, I could see that driver's side rear box brace is a little lumpy, so that wasn't replaced when building this car. Yeah, so like I said, 10 batteries across the back. By this time, at this point, I had already had the Millermatic 211. I think it's 211. Yeah, Millermatic 211 MIG welder. I had ditched the flux core, so we're getting better welds. And really, this rack is really simple, and it's often used. And all it is you got your 4 uprights coming off the frame, and then you weld, some box tube across it as a subframe, and then you build your battery box, and on top of that, and with your hold downs, and your subframe has angle iron coming out in the front where you mount your pumps, and that's pretty much it. Super simple. A lot of weight in the back, which people like that. I guess makes the car hop higher, gets you a pivot point better. But really, when I was doing this setup, when I first had purchased the car, I had all intentions to, I wanted to have like what I consider all bases covered. All bases covered to me is, it's got nice paint, it's got nice interior, and it hops. And when I'm talking about hopping, I'm not talking about hopping of today. Hopping of today, what people consider hopping of today, is different than hopping, 15 or 20 years ago. We're going to get back to that, to the hopping debate, but here's a picture of how I used to do the hold down. Still can. I got this idea from my buddy Al at Fine Line. Basically, it's 1-inch box tube, upright, and then you weld a nut, to the end of the box tube. Looking back, I would have recessed it in the box tube, and then now you have a bolt, and you can bolt your hold down, like that. So, and these are in between the batteries, so kind of beefy. I mean, you can build these racks, however the hell you want, man. Some people just use, all thread on the end with, flat bar or angle iron, sideways, or box tube, or, now we try and hide the hold downs, or make them as minimal as possible when we do the setups here. This is one way to do it, and this is heavy duty. This is what I consider heavy duty. If you can get you like a 3/4 inch bolt, or at minimum a 1/2 inch bolt, and you can get it works out. It's very sturdy is what I'm trying to say. You know, here's another picture showing the Millermatic 211. I still have that. I want to say I paid, oh man, I want to say it was like $1,800 when I bought it. $1,800 for the machine, the cart, and a very small bottle. And since then we've got a bigger bottle, but to have the same machine, we did have to upgrade the feed, or the trigger, or the gun end, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure the technical term, but man, the machine's been a beast, man. I've had the thing, you know, like 14 years now. So, you know, here's a better shot of the battery rack. You can see the angle iron coming out, and that's where the pumps are going to mount. So pretty simple. And like I say, you got the weight pushed all the way back. That was pretty much the hardest thing to factor in, was you want to as far back as possible, but you also want to be able to close the trunk. So as you can see, I have battery, you know, mock it up in there before you do your final welding, you know. So before you do that, you got to buy the batteries, which now, you know, them batteries are like 140 to 160 bucks a piece, and I had 10 of them. So I think back then they were like 80 bucks a piece without a core or something like that. So, you know, roughly 100 bucks. So you got $1,000 worth of batteries, which is nuts. And once you put paint on them, you have 0 warranty on them. You know, just another picture here mocking up no trunk hinges. So I remember we had to figure out how to put the trunk hinges on. I remember that thing, the hinge was worn out, or the torsion bar was worn out, or it was an issue with the trunk that wasn't letting it open all the way, if I remember right. So anyways, I welded this up myself. This was, I want to say this was before Bobby was coming around. I know Bobby came around shortly after, but he wasn't a welder at the time. I don't know what he was doing. He didn't learn to weld until, you know, here recently. Well, you know, several years ago. But when I met him, you know, he wasn't a welder. Here we are, 10 batteries across the back, what they call a full rack. It does fit, tight fit, but man, you know, looking at these pictures and the things we do as lowriders, man, this is, I mean, this is kind of hazardous. If you were to get rear-ended in a collision, and you got all this weight and all this battery and all this potential fire hazard, you know, right around the gas tank area, it's really a hazard on wheels, you know. But it's fun, so we do it. But I was able to get all the batteries in there, and I believe next up was going to be, you know, mocking the hold down up, which is dangerous in itself. That's why you got to leave the little caps on the post, because if you arc those things while you're trying to put the thing in, you know, you're gonna have 4th of July in the trunk. Here's a shot of a couple shots of mocking the pumps up. So these pumps, man, they were high-low, and I got them for quite a bargain, man. They were all beefy stuff, man, like 1-inch blocks or 3/4 inch pressure coming out. It wasn't a piston pump, if I remember right. I don't think it was a piston pump. It was just a regular, you know, regular, probably number 13 gear, and it came with an Adex'S, if I recall right. Yeah, it was a 3-pump kit. I remember, man. So I really don't have Facebook. I'm thinking about maybe getting on Facebook here, but I haven't really had Facebook since, like, man, since it started. Probably wasn't to start like 06, 07. I had it for a little bit. My buddy had called me one day and told me that this kit was on Facebook. I don't even think it was, they had Marketplace back then. They might have, don't get me lying, but anyways, it was a 3-pump high-low kit with 2 pumps for the rear and 1 for the front, with an Adex'S. And I want to say the dude wanted 1,700, I think, or 1,800 for 3 pumps with the Adex'S. Okay, with the Adex'S. Now Adex'S are like, I don't even know how much they are, 1,200 bucks or something stupid like that. So back then Adex'S were like, you know, probably like 475, 575, maybe 500. So I was like, okay, well, that's like a big chunk of the value of the setup right there. So you're getting basically 3 pumps, you know, with all the hoses and all that for like $1,000. I was like, man, that's a bargain. So, and it was local. It was in Houston area. So I drove up there and I bought the stuff. I want to say I offered the guy like a little bit less, like maybe 15, and he took it. So then I had an extra pump because I was only going to run 1 pump to the rear. I had an extra pump and 2 dumps, and I sold those locally. I want to say I sold that right there, that what's in the picture, for like $4. So I got a lot of money, you know, got half of the shit back, you know. So, but man, looking at this pump right here, this picture's on time, because I sure wish I had them high-low deltas right there to put in the Cadillac, so I could take these leaky ass Black Magic dumps out and put you know, put something that's a little bit better in my opinion. But we're gonna get to that in the near future. But so I sold you know, sold off some of the stuff that came in the kit, recouped some of my money back. Win-win. Here's a picture. I believe I was getting ready to start putting the front pump together, and that is the front pump right there. Hey, it was all chromed out, man. Chrome fittings, big chrome check valve Parker. Had a big color band Parker slowdown, 1/2 inch to an Adex'S regular. I think it was a Super Duty, but regular finish to, once again, the infamous stainless steel return hose. So this was before I hardlined it, so I'm kind of mocking it up, making sure that it's going to fit in the trunk, because if you go back a couple pictures, the Y block there was real close to the upper trunk shelf. You know, here's a picture of that same pump mocked up, and ditched the braided return and went for 1/2 inch hardline, which you guys watch the channel. You know, I'll show you how to bend that and what tools are needed to do all that. It's super simple, super cheap. Once you actually own the tools. You know, looking at that pump, that looks like it's a piston pump. That must have been a piston pump without a gauge on it. Looks like you air it up in the Looking at that, the tank is backwards. I never put air in it. I never treated it as a piston pump, but that tank is backwards if that's a piston pump. I believe the fill hole should be in the front. Anyways, man, that's it. Hardlined. It was cold. You see my space heater there. Still got all the same tools, still doing the same crap. And man, like I said, I had a couple guys actually this week, man, hit me up, message me on Instagram. One asked about the bender and one asked about the flare tools. And I was, you know, I told them both, man, like, you know, buy the good tools. Buy once, cry once. And these tools are going to last you, you know, hopefully your life, you know, 20 years, or, you know, till you're done, tired of doing this work. But that's what I advise, you know, when you're buying stuff like this, man. Don't buy the one-time throwaway tool, because you're going to find yourself needing it again and you have to buy it again. Just, you know, buy once, cry once is what I say. Here is the back pump. So like I say, that kit that I bought came with the 2 deltas, but I sold them, so I needed some back dumps. I remember I hit up Walt in Mississippi, because he used to have a gang of Adex'S and Monster Greens. And I ordered 2 Adex'S. I want to say, like I said, they used to be like $375 each, man. So maybe you guys watching the videos, you might be a little younger. You might be 25 years old and you weren't around, or you don't remember those times, man, where a regular duty Adex'S was $375 and a super duty polished Adex'S was $475. That used to, and back then that was expensive. You know what I mean? Like, that was like, damn, that was unaffordable. That was just as unaffordable as they are today. It's like, it's crazy to think that back then you can get them for $375, and only big dogs had Adex'S back then. Like, You see somebody's trunk and they had like 4 Adex'S in a show car. You're like, damn, they spent like, you know, like $1,500, man, just in dumps. And, you know, with $1,500, like you can buy, you know, like the whole setup, you know, plus like a set of China wheels, you know, or set of bolt-ons or something back then. So back then, Adex'S used to be, you know, cheaper, but were still expensive, which kind of sounds strange. But now they're so expensive that I'm not going to buy them. I mean, like on the 60, you know, I went with the mini monsters, which kind of give the look of a vintage aircraft type dump, but you know, they're a fraction of the price, and they're basically a Delta, which Deltas are pretty reliable for the most part. But yeah, here's the back pump. Parker checks, not Parker slowdowns, but definitely Parker checks. Looks like 1/2 inch. And then, of course, the dual Adex'S. You know, here it is, completed. Like I say, you got the hold down going across. Don't remember how many volts I had to the front. It wasn't all 10. I want to say it was probably about 8. No air in the piston. And you can see how the Adex'S is kind of close to that trunk shelf, which goes back to what I was saying about mocking it up. You can see how far pushed back the batteries are on the driver's side drip rail there, like basically all the way up against it. And your trunk will still close on a 62 at least. I'm not sure about other years, but it did close on that. And you know, we're in business, so this was a little further on, you know, once the car was finished. But this is a completed video of the, or a picture of the install, which is what this video today is about. All right, so if you guys made it to this far in the video, we're at 17-minute mark. Now we can address the all bases covered thing. So by no means was this car, you know, what I considered all bases covered. Really, all bases covered would have chrome undercarriage. So you would have, you know, you would have clean paint, clean interior, chrome undercarriage, and the car would be snappy, right? Nowadays, in the hop game, which I'm not in the hop game by no means, but from what I see on social media, it seems like, and this is going to upset maybe some people, but don't care. It seems like adding weight to the car is celebrated. I see videos on YouTube and stuff, and or you know, and man, people are pouring lead in their car under the battery rack, and they're celebrating it. They're announcing it. They're showing it off. And back then, you know, 20 years ago and longer, you know, I mean, there was people using weight, but you were discreet about it. You tried to hide it. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't want people to know. So I don't understand what's the objective of pile on a bunch of lead and then throw 14, 16 batteries on top of that. That's another 1,600 pounds, you know, and of course your car is going to hop, you know, and that's not engineering anything. That's cheating is what it used to be called. It used to be called cheating. Now it's called, you know, putting it down in the street, I guess, man. But to me, the car don't need to hit higher than, like, you know, like 40 inches maybe, and be drivable on the highway. And that's all bases covered. You know, a car running and a car driving are two different things. You know, parking lot driving and highway driving are two totally different things. So you see these guys, man, they're hopping, you know, now 100 inches. The car runs like shit, sounds like shit, looks like shit, tore up, and is celebrated, man. To me, that's not low riding. I see it all over Instagram, and I'm tired, you know, I'm tired of seeing it, because to me that's not craftsmanship. But hey, you know, people can build their cars however they want. It's their car, it's their money. I didn't help them make it. I ain't gonna help them spend it. But I wish lowriding would get back to simpler times when the car hit, 30 inches on 13s with no weight and 8 batteries, and drove on the freeway. Like that's what lowriding is to me. And I got my influence, when I used to go to picnics back then. Tulsa picnic was one of them. We used to go up there and see, shout out to Down for Life. Dan had Hot Fire. That car had all bases covered. You guys maybe remember that. Dan has a YouTube channel as well. The red Monte Carlo luxury sport Hot Fire, all bases covered. They had a blue Monte Carlo with a 44 back then on 13s that was way on the bumper, highway driven. All bases covered. Cars like that. Cars like 3 Licks 63, all bases covered. Hollywood, all bases covered. I remember Clyde, Clyde, he had a cream 63 that was at the Houston show in 07, all bases covered, chromed out, paint, engine, hopping. When I say hopping, I mean, now it's considered like chipping, but to hop, with 6 to 8 batteries, single pump, number 11 gear, number 13 gear, to get it to hit that, that takes craftsmanship, that takes engineering. And I give way more props to cars like that and builds like that than these junk cars that, I mean, they're throwing weight at it, they're throwing money at it, and then they're throwing it away, which to me is a waste. But that's my rant, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this Way Back Wednesday. Y'all stay tuned for the next one, where we're going to finish up the final assembly of the car.